is the chairman of the SCA, Sir Bartholomew Hightower. And featuring a live performance by Dame Honor von Atzinger, the Dragon Bard of the Midrealm. Me? I am your announcer, Master Bjorn of the Northern Sea. And here's your host, Master Laertes McBride.
Good evening, everyone. How's it going? Hope you're having a good evening and that the week went well. As usual, we'll start off with a couple of kind of housekeeping notes for the Kingdom of Caid mainly, and then we'll get going with the show. A couple of things. There was the Kingdom Seneschal has reaffirmed, along with their majesties, that we will be opening up for local practices and meetings and such starting on June 1st here in the Kingdom of Caid. At least we're still on that path. Let's put it that way. The Kingdom calendar is going to start being updated on the Kingdom website. They do have the dates out there now for Coronation and Queen's Champion, July 10th for Coronation and Wintermist, and July 24th in Gildenholt for Queen's Champion. And I think it's the 18th is the Ranged Queen's Champion event. Be sure to go to the Kingdom website for more information and details as they go along, because as we have been talking about, for events, not practices, we're going to have to pre-register. So there'll be more information coming along as we go along. I think the rest of this, we will bring in my friend Bjorn. So let's see what Bjorn's doing. Well, you know what? We're going to wait a second because I can see what Bjorn's doing, and I don't want to put that on screen right now. Oh, there he is. Okay, here he comes. And here comes Bjorn, right about now. I saw what you were doing.
Yeah, I know. I had so many technical things I've got to do that I'm not doing as well as I should do. I think maybe I'm just I'm letting all of the Rona stuff get to me.
Hey, that there we go. Thank you for the information on the Queen's Champion archery and thrown weapons. I thought it was the 18th. So that's a new game we can play. Is what was Bjorn doing?
Well, Bjorn was getting digital medical stuff set aside that was going off and making lots of noise. So
you just gave the answer. Now it's not a game. Anyway,
sometimes health is no game, sir.
Well, good point. So one thing we need to talk about before we get into Bardic War is the upcoming technical symposium that's going to be hosted. There's a Facebook event, right?
Yes.
May 1st and 2nd. And we'll put some of the comments in the comment field about more details. You want to talk about it right quick?
Well, it's going to be one of these wonderful situations where people from around the SCA are going to be getting together and basically teaching classes on the various digital aspects that we've had to learn on the fly this last year, a little bit extra. We're going to be teaching a class. There's going to be a lot of other people teaching classes, everything from how to run Zoom practices, how to run Zoom classes or meetings, plus I think we will have a couple of Marshall folks that are talking about teaching over Zoom or how to do those sorts of things with a Pell or having a camera set up just to do demonstrations, all kinds of things, and how the digital space has impacted the SCA in this last year.
Right, and then Sunday at 11 o'clock Pacific time, we will be doing a 1-hour session about how we produce a weekly show online. We will give kind of a look behind the scenes, the production, how we go through it, the different steps we take, the technology we're using. So if you're interested on how this thing really comes together each week, be sure to join us for that session too. Now, let's kind of transition because, of course, we have a special function for the upcoming Bardic War. So let's do a quick little recap of what's going on and talk about what's new this week, because this is our session about the Bardic War. I just love how subtle that is.
It's a gossamer of a whisper of a hint of coming attractions.
Exactly. So, do we have an update about Bardic War? And we will during our Bardic performance. Do we have any news we want to share?
Well, honestly, I think I would like our guest to handle that, except for we will continue to have other generals and people who are both running and managing various aspects of the war as Bardic guests in these upcoming weeks. So we personally are very fortunate in that we're going to have so many people who are actively engaged in working on bringing this Bardic War to fruition to come on the show and entertain us and also give us a little bit of a lesson about how this got started. So that's going to be a lot of fun
Right.
in the subsequent, I guess 3 or 4 weeks now.
Right. And also keep an eye out. Bjorn and I will be hosting a game show for Bardic War, not for a war point, but it'll be on Saturday evening, the 15th at 10 p.m. Eastern time, 7 o'clock Pacific. So you can be part of the game show and then go have a good evening out here. Details will be going out soon, along with casting calls, because we're going to be looking for contestants and some other roles. So keep an eye out. We will post out there both on Bardic War and on our social media outlets. Speaking of social media outlets, what do we have for the Arts and Science websites today, Bjorn?
We have 2 really fun things that we're going to talk about today. Now, the first one is, well, some people might think that this is more about all of our wonderful scribes, our illuminators, or those that calligraph all those wonderful scrolls that we make. And while I definitely agree that this website has something for them, but also for anybody who's ever really been interested in medieval manuscripts and some of the more interesting aspects, I recommend this one. So this comes from openculture.com, and it is talking about all of those rabbits in medieval manuscripts. Why are so many of those bunnies, those rabbits, those hares drawn in the most macabre ways? And I don't mean that the bunnies themselves are undergoing any horrific transformations or torture. It's that the bunnies are doing horrible things to the humans that are in the inter portions of the manuscript. And for that reason, this entire website was brought out to give examples of different rabbits putting people on, hog tying them, or right in the back of a snail, engaged in a joust with a dog or something of that nature. And just why is it that rabbits, that hares were used in these most fanciful ways? Now, obviously, so many of the cloistered clerics, the monks, the people that did the scriptorums at a lot of these religious institutions, they had to do something to get their inner sense of artistry out. And artifice was considered the second most important thing that you could place on a document of this type. And so this just basically goes into detail about why there are so many killer rabbits in medieval manuscripts. So I think it's a lot of fun. I recommend you take that a look at that one, whether or not you are someone that makes those scrolls, or if you're just someone who likes rabbits. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is we have been very fortunate in the past 10 years or so, especially with the advent of a much faster and much more comprehensive internet, of having some people who really want to show aspects of the Middle Ages. And one of the people that we're particularly fond of, at least that I'm fond of, and was introduced to me by the Honorable Lady Avicia, is a professor at Radboud University, Johann Oesterman. Johann Oesterman is a professor, as I said, of medieval literature, and he really gets into some of the finds that are done in the lowlands. So northern Germany, Denmark, the Netherlands. And one of the finds that they had very recently talks about the oldest love song in the Gelderland, in the land of that particular part of the Netherlands. A Dutch piece. Now it's in Latin, but it is. They found it while they were going through some of the older manuscripts, and they found a piece of music, including a rather rudimentary staff. And so, being that the professor also is very fond of medieval music, he got a hold of some folks and they recreated it, which you can hear on SoundCloud attached to the website. Now, the website is in Dutch, but it can be translated in English because, of course, everything can be translated nowadays online. And I recommend wholeheartedly that you not only listen to the conversation between the professor and the, I guess you'd say, medieval correspondent, but also they have the piece of music produced, and it is really fascinating. It's one of those pieces of recreative archaeology that we in the SCA absolutely love and cherish, and you get to see on the fly professors, people within academia taking the steps to preserve our past in a way that we can immediately understand and comprehend. And I think it's fantastic. So to Professor Oosterman, my great thanks. And I know that a lot of folks who have a persona from that time period would be interested in taking a look at it. And those are the two websites for this week.
That's awesome. You forgot to mention they translated some of the lyrics for that love song. And really what it's about is they got in an argument about what to have for dinner. Right? Is that no?
I don't know. I didn't catch that portion. I'm not entirely certain.
I'm sure that's what it's about because it's timeless.
You, I would say, probably have a greater handle on love songs than I do.
Okay, sure. I do think it's interesting too that the supporters on my my arms are rabbits. I don't know what that says about me, but
lightning fast.
Sure.
Calligraphed in a way that could cause torture to humans.
You probably get people to sign off on that interpretation. So, speaking of which, who is our first guest for the evening?
We are very fortunate that we have a guest that is returning to us, although they are returning to us in a new capacity. So we have had this good gentle on before, but we have the current chairman of the SCA, Sir Bartholomew Hightower, joining us this evening.
Great. Well, let's get him on. He's been very patient. So he'll be here right about now. Hello.
Hey, Laertes. Hey, Bjorn. How are you doing? I'm so pleased to be back on.
Wow. I don't think anyone that's come on the second time has said that, but
it's quite an honor, and I'm really excited about being here and talking to you and all of your guests.
Well, like we were talking about before the show, I think you're the first person to come back for the interview. We've had an interview that's come back as a performer and vice versa. But yeah, it's because your role has changed since the last time. You're still on the board. But last time you came and spoke to us as serving as the ombudsman for the Kingdom of Caid. Now you've got a new position as chairperson of the SCA. So.
Yeah, every 6 months, someone both joins the board and drops off the board. And we've been fortunate to have a really great chairman for the last couple of years. And Craig has just done a fantastic job. And he decided to step down a little early and give me a chance to sort of step in and guide me as I learn the ropes of this new position.
Right. So, we actually spoke with him here recently. So, really when I reached out to see if you wanted to come on the show, it was about some other guidance that the board has put out. But after that, another one came out. So let's hit that one first, if you don't mind, just briefly about that.
It's been a really busy time for the board, and it's an exciting time for us. Yeah.
So, about the COVID non-restrictions, I think is the best way to put it. So just the guidance on handle that. Could you just kind of brief overview of what came out of the board about that?
So we're looking at lifting the restrictions or lifting the suspension of in-person events. We published a resolution on that And the basics of the resolution are day events only, masks, social distancing, going to try to keep everyone stationary when they're eating. And let's see if I'm sure there's another one. Pre-registration. We want to make sure everyone is pre-registered for their events. And they're slated to go into effect on June 1st. And it's sort of our first step toward coming back to in-person events and enjoying each other's company.
Right. So basically, it's just guidance on how the SCA and events and such will interact with the government, whether it's local or state or federal guidance that they've given us, so that we can start this reopening, kind of, basically, right?
And of course, something that all events are going to have to do is follow their local restrictions, whatever their local, state, and regional ones. Those have to take precedence first, and then we may have a few others that we put on top of that, just to make sure that we're all safe as we get back to in-person events again.
Right, and this guidance, I'm sure it will evolve as the situation changes. I mean, we're still, it's still 2 months away, kind of.
Yeah, and it's really difficult. I just have to say, it's really difficult for us to try to guess what it's going to look like. And so we try to take a look at what the current situation is and think what it's going to be like and come up with a safe set of restrictions for us. But of course, we're looking at this all the time. We're in constant communication with each other. It feels like we're meeting every other week. And every time we do, we take a look at this and decide whether or not we should review them or either impose new restrictions or try to relax them. So far, like I said, we're keeping a very close eye on this. We put the president and the Society Seneschal in charge of implementing this. And so far, they're doing just a fantastic job in terms of getting the word out and making sure that all the questions get answered.
Right. Okay. Well, if there's any other questions about that, I'm sure we encourage people to go to the Kingdom Seneschal from where they're watching it from, or they can write a letter to their ombudsman, right?
Right.
Let's just point out, you're on the road, right? You're going, you don't hang out in hotels and just call people on the internet.
Well, just to wrap up the COVID thing, I just want to say we're all excited about getting back together, and I certainly can't wait to go to an event. But yes, I'm speaking to you from an undisclosed location somewhere in the middle of Kansas right now.
Right.
I planned travel, and you called me up about coming on your show, and so I grabbed a camera and a laptop and a couple things, and here we are.
Awesome. I appreciate making the extra effort to be on the show, because traveling is just challenging enough. Okay, so let's change to the other thing that I originally reached out to talk to you about, and that's a proposal for a new patent order that came out of the board peerage committee, asking for commentary, right? So before we kind of get into the meat of it, can you talk about just briefly how we got to the point of getting this proposal out for people to have comments on? The peerage committee, I'm sure people don't even realize there's a peerage committee talking about how to make this happen.
Sure. Oh, are you still there?
You're still there.
So the board does have several committees that do work for it. There's the Census Committee. You may be aware of. There was a Financial Committee. And the Peerage Committee has been working for the board for, I think 5 years now. They've been formed and working for the board. And for a long time, they were tasked specifically with the process of bringing new peerages out into the world. And so they worked on that. They came up with a bunch of ideas. They submitted a report to the board. And last October, the board asked them to bring forward a proposal for a new peerage. And so they did that. It came out, I believe, in the January meeting. The board thought it had enough merit to go out to the participants for commentary, and so they did that. We had to put the brakes on it for just a few weeks while we took care of some other big important things that are happening in the society now. We've got changes to the corporate office and the vice president of corporate operations. Renee is going to be retiring. We're all really sad and excited about that. I mean, sad to see her go and excited to see that she's going to retire and have a wonderful time. But that's come up, and the reopening, and finally got this back on the plate. And talked about it again at the April meeting, and decided to put it out for commentary. So that's what you see now. So, and I will take pains to say that the board, does believe this has merit. That's why they put it out. They just wouldn't put it out frivolously, but it truly is a proposal from the peerage committee, and the board wants to see how the participants feel about it. That's the top priority right now.
Right. So, and we'll get in details in a bit, but yeah, there, even in the proposal, there's the closing paragraph talks about, give us your feedback. Here's the way to reach us. Let us know. And I believe, and you can correct me because we were both involved in an earlier iteration of something similar, is that looking at a path forward on establishing a process for additional peerages kind of came out of the interesting path that the Order of Defense kind of went through the board and was developed and implemented too, because it kind of zigzagged there for a while. But that's kind of what I had heard, is it was established to try to more formal process as opposed to what happened before.
Well, we don't want to go too much over history, but
Yeah.
I felt, and none of the board members that were on then are on now, so we can't really say, but we felt that the process may have been a little more contentious than it should have been for, such a fantastic new thing. Yeah, might have been. I did not. Could have been just a friendly time. We aren't sure, but we think it might have been somewhat contentious.
Okay, so this is kind of like trying to, and is this in response to feedback from the census too, showing that there was interest for making paths available for peerage recognition for people that are currently outside the buckets that are available?
Yeah, if you remember back a couple of years, there was an abortive attempt at trying to gather information. We put out a poll, and it was really interesting reaction from the participants about that poll. We got a lot of commentary back on our email list. About half of it saying, "How dare you put this poll out in support of a new peerage," and the other half saying, "How dare you put out a poll that completely trashes the idea of a new peerage." And so we were quite thunderstruck by that, backed off, and decided that we'd see if we could find another way of getting feedback. And as luck would have it, the census, it's been about 10 years since we've had the census, and it was time to do it again. And so we thought that we would form a census committee and have them. We made them completely independent. Various groups submitted questions to them. They looked at the previous census, put it out, and were able to get some feedback about how people felt about peerages now. And based on that, the peerage committee, which had access to some of the data, looked at that and thought that it might indeed be time to consider looking at a new peerage.
Okay, so and just so that people can understand how we got to this point that the proposal was put out. So now, let's, if you'll indulge me, let's talk about the proposal itself, because it's really set up in two different parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says basically Crowns would be allowed to elevate members who are acting as peers in areas not considered by the existing peerages into a shared peerage that has no specific unifying factor, and that it wouldn't be limited to martial pursuits. So you want to just talk about that just for a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, well, there's something that happens, that has been happening in the SCA for 50 years, and that is people will come into the SCA and groups will come up with these wonderful and interesting activities that they will try. Rapier is a classic example of that, where people came in and said, "We'd like to try fighting with these particular style of weapons. Can we come up with a way of doing that?" There have been other endeavors. Equestrian is another great example of that. Archery, of course, was there from the very first, but that continues to be very popular. And so people have been able to sort of vote with their feet for many years by choosing to do these activities. And some of these communities have really gelled. The armored fighting community and the rapier community and the laurels have, they've all sort of created this community amongst themselves that has a lot of, well, it has many people, has a lot of participation. It has rules, its own the sort of the game that they play. And so, we've noticed that things like this have happened in the SCA, and we do see a lot of these new endeavors popping up. And so, one question becomes, as we dealt with the rapiers, is when does a community become large enough to support a peerage, to a point where the SCA needs a peerage to take care of it, and to build it up and to organize it and to run it. But before that happens, there's a very long period of time, and that may not be necessary to have a peerage specifically associated with an endeavor. But that doesn't mean there aren't people that are doing exactly the kind of things we expect of peers in the meantime. And so one of the things that the peerage committee was very focused on was trying to find a way to recognize these unsung peers in our society. And we have ways of, in the past, some of them have become pelicans, and because of their service in a particular area, and some have become laurels because they're doing research in this area. But that has sort of left a void in many of them. Is they want to be recognized for their skill in an area and have their peerage for that. And so this is one way of trying to approach that, of finding a way to recognize people who are acting as peers before there's a community large enough to support that peerage.
Okay, and just because something was noted in the comments, this is completely separate, has nothing to do with, even if another peerage is put in, it doesn't touch the topic of changing how crowns are determined. That is a completely separate topic from this peerage and asking for it, because I know that's kind of being kicked about a little bit too. But so right now there's not a proposed name or insignia or regalia or anything for this new peerage, because it's not that far along. It's more, right? It's about the concept, not the execution right now.
It's absolutely correct. And, I've had to answer this question a number of times. People say, well, it's already a done deal. The board wouldn't have put this out if it wasn't already been decided this is the way it's going to be, and they're just asking for commentary, and they're going to get the commentary, and then they're going to do it exactly what they want to do. But that's not the way it's going here. The populace membership have asked us to be responsive and to listen, and so this is an opportunity for us to do that. We're putting this out. We think it's a great proposal, the peerage committee, and to get this out there. And the board is truly interested to see how people feel about that. We're getting some feedback about it, a lot of positive feedback. We're getting some people that maybe aren't as comfortable with it as we would have liked, but that's all part of the commentary, and that's what we have to do, is to take that in and listen to it.
Okay, so as we talk about, there's two parts, and the second part, as it's kind of presented in here, is kind of optional, right? It's be next step, maybe. So you just, if I read it correctly, at some point, as you were talking about, people that are being recognized with this non-specific peerage, they kind of reach a critical mass for a specific endeavor. I'd say there's 10 people that have been recognized in a kingdom that does it. And then across the 20 kingdoms, let's say 18 of them have this kind of critical mass of like-minded, recognized individuals that they could petition to split off from this kind of omnibus peerage to become their own. And it would go through the same process of petitioning to the bod, coming up with regalia, a name, etc. And if I read it correctly, they would basically rescind membership in the omnibus and kind of be transferred in, for lack of a more elegant term, into this new specifically recognized peerage. Is that kind of a good summation of it?
Yeah. The way that it is envisioned is that this order itself, within the order itself, they are able to determine by internal polling or however they wish to do it, that there are enough people that are peers in this endeavor to form a peerage. Say, the example I like is Helgabal. Let's say that we have a bunch of people recognized for Helgabal. I know it's very unlikely, But then, as we have, in the proposal, we talk about 10 peers, a minimum of 10 peers in each kingdom, and all but 2 of the kingdoms, just to make sure that one kingdom can't say you can't do that, or 2 kingdoms say, oh, we'll never create any Helgabal peers. Then when they feel they're at that point, they petition the board. We review their proposal. We come up with a regalia and a name, and we give them a petition and say, okay, this is the deal. This is what we're going to create. Sign here. And if there are enough people sign to satisfy the requirements, then you are moved irrevocably from this, order name peerage to the new peerage. And that is your peerage.
Okay. So I'm glad to know I can read, and I can read. That's pretty much my takeaway from it. And so basically, how long are y'all looking for comment? When does the commentary period end?
Yeah, well, before I answer that, just
yes.
one last thing I want to say about that. And, we think this is a good concept. And the reason for it is because everybody has a say in it. The participants have input by choosing the things they want to do and the things that interest them. The board has input to say this is the level at which we think a peerage is viable. The crowns have a say in recognizing people in these areas. No one's going to make a peer other than the crowns. They're the ones that get the final decision about whether or not what someone is doing is peerage worthy. And then the peers themselves get a chance to design what that order is going to look like before it is actually created. And so that's why we're doing that. Now, to answer your question, Laertes, we're looking for a commentary period of about 60 days for this. We're going to create a survey. It's going to be on sca.org. And people are going to get a chance to register how much they're in favor of this. We're going to ask them whether or not they support part 1 of the proposal, and we'll give them like a 5-stage Likert scale. I really hate it. I kind of don't like it. I'm ambivalent. I kind of like it. I really like it. We'll ask them that for part 1 and part 2, and we may have a few more questions beyond that also. And then at the end of that, then the board gets a chance to take a look at all the comments they've received and the results of the poll, and we decide what happens next.
Okay. So I'm coming. Bjorn disappeared for a minute. I was checking to see what was going on. Okay, so all right. So I'm gonna if you will indulge me for a couple of minutes. Can you
please
indulge me for a couple of minutes? And then I'm gonna turn this over to Bjorn because we're running late. Sorry, Honor. I'm a little talky tonight. But she's fine with it. Okay, so it specifically states it's not just for martial pursuits that aren't recognized at this time, right?
Correct.
So, however, that being said, so the Pelicans basically recognize any type of service, right? Whether it's really intense in the local area or for the kingdom or whatever. And the Laurels have been very good about being multidisciplined, about recognize people that do arts and sciences within a broad swath of area. As you mentioned, I know people that have got a laurel for their historical knowledge of both armored combat and rapier combat and building siege weapons, that aspect of it. But then, of course, we've run into, at this time, it's very limited to get recognized as a peerage for martial pursuits. So I'm just wondering, to me, it seems more focused. We're dancing around that. It really is more about those people out there on equestrian and combat archery and et cetera, or the ones that are really kind of driving this need that's been identified. Well, there are other pursuits that aren't out there. But, for me, when we went through this, because both you and I were on the Additional Peerage Exploratory Committee back in the day, that, for me, and I will write this up because I've written these letters before, I do have a couple of questions. So one, peerages are created and the guidelines are established at the board level. The kingdoms can't create a peerage. It comes from the board, and right? That's pretty much how it builds up.
That is true, yes.
Yeah, okay.
You're going to get to a question, I know it.
I get you. That was a question.
It's like you're setting up those dominoes here, and you're going to
No,
them all
well,
down here.
kind of.
The
But
suspense is killing me.
no. You know where this is all going. And it's true, when you're made recognized for armored combat, you're recognized either in the order of the knighthood or a master of arms, because together those two awards are considered the order of chivalry. So really there is the order of chivalry. It's made up of two sub orders already, right? And I know you're a knight, right? Okay. So instead of creating a omnibus, kind of creating something else out of whole cloth, since the peerages are overseen and directed by what they are by the board, would it make more sense that anything that is a pursuit that's overseen by the society marshal would be considered more in that kind of making the order of the chivalry, not a knight, not a master of arms, that's their order. And if it's an activity that's not overseen by the society marshal, then it falls into the laurels for them to support and grow and recognize instead of starting something new. And then you can still do part two, that if they're in that kind of collective order of chivalry, if they get 10 equestrians in each kingdom, they can split off and have their own, but it still falls under the umbrella of a marshal's pursuit and order of chivalry. It just seems weird to me that instead going to creating something whole cloth, why not use the tools that are already there and build it out that way? Do you have an opinion on that?
Yes, I do have an opinion on that. So thank you very much for getting to that question.
Sorry, I was trying to work a question in there. I was like, nah, I'm just going to go for it.
That was a very long road, but you got there. So I'm really pleased.
You know where.
So why not? So and this is one of the popular responses that we've gotten back is why not? In various forms, people say, why not just have one order of chivalry, and then and then orders within that, and then the chivalry peerage, or it's why can't we just all group them together as one, and then have separate suborders between them? I submit that that's semantics, and I can't see how it would work. How would that if we were to do that, then and we would have and it's extraordinarily hypothetical at this point.
Sure.
Right. We're in complete hypothetical land. If we did that, what you're proposing, I believe, is to say these different, the order of knighthood and the order of defense and masters of defense, masters of
Master of Arms. The Master of Arms.
Master of Arms. Thank you. A little bit tongue-tied there. Yeah. Forgive me. And if we have other peerages in other orders of, for example, people that ride horses or people that hit each other with really heavy swords,
cool.
They would all be separate little suborders within this one order.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's that is certainly is an idea, and it does have it does have merit, and I can see why people like that idea, because it has a certain symmetry to it, and that I would say that idea is sort of gaining in popularity, and so maybe that is where eventually we're going to end up with this.
I mean,
that's quite possible. I will say,
okay.
I hasten to say, in case anyone is worried about me saying, "Oh, we're going to toss the knights under the bus and group everyone in there with them," that is a blasphemy in many circles, chivalric circles. And the reason for that, I mean, just speaking really bluntly about this, the reason for that is that we create these orders, and these orders work and refine their idea of who they are. And that's just a natural thing that they do over time. And everyone that gets inducted into that order, and even the Masters of Defense is the same way, is potential candidates first have to figure out what that order is and then have to want to be like that. Those are really important steps in joining those orders. And so, of course, these different peerage orders are going to be filled with people that are very protective of what that idea is.
Right.
And I think that is just a natural tendency of the way things work. And so it would be really difficult to try from the board perspective. It would really be very difficult for the board to say, hey, we know we gave you this peerage order, and now we're going to take it back and we're going to mess with it, and then we're going to give it back to you. That's a real hot potato.
Oh,
I got to tell you.
yeah.
But I think it's within the long term realm of possibility to do that.
And
Is that a reasonable response?
Of course, no. We've had this conversation ad nauseum from before the order of defense started, and the board drafted volunteers to talk about it.
But I also have to say, before we go too much further, I also have to again give the disclaimer that that's me talking.
Exactly.
That's definitely not the board talking.
Right. And same here. And I sit in my room with a webcam, so what does my opinion matter? But last thing, and I'll give this one to Bjorn. My only thought behind it is to respect the work that the Knights and the Master of Arms have done, not touching that recognition. But when you're looking at people in a martial pursuit, if you look at the people that are already recognized at a peerage level, and the crown comes to go, oh, look, here's this person on the equestrian field. I feel from watching them that their equestrian skills are there, but as the member of the Order of the Chivalry, which is all the people that are in the martial support, do you feel they meet that aspect of it? Because you can't speak about their prowess because we're not out there with the horses with them. But you play to the strengths and the knowledge and the experience of the people that are there, and kind of like you do with the laurels. The laurels could talk to, I may not be a seamstress, but I can talk about the knowledge and expertise that they've shown and how they're willing to teach. That was why I've gone down that path, just to recognize and encourage it.
It's just fascinating to see how this works over time. I talk with Knights about this all the time, and of course, many of them, not all two-person, of course, but many of them feel very strongly about that core idea of what chivalry means to them. And I think, although I can't be certain, but I think I'm beginning to see those same kinds of things happen within the Order of Defense, where people within the order are building this idea of what it is to be master of the Order of Defense, and it has meaning and it has worth beyond, just skill with a sword.
Sure, I would hope so.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I will be sending my letter. I'll just change the date from a couple of years ago and send it back in. Thank you for
I'll be looking forward to that one.
Oh yeah, it's long. Anyone that's read letters from me, because I may have sent it to the chivalry here too. They know it's not a synopsis. So anyway, I'm going to step away. We'll let Bjorn ask if there's any questions left, and then we'll get to honor. So apologize for running long tonight, but here we go. I'll be back.
There's a comment that I wanted to talk about that's in the chat, and that is people talking about how, I believe it's Her Ladyship Hilla saying that having martial peerages together makes more sense than having cheese making and bardic, which, if you've ever heard me tell a story, no, that's not entirely accurate, because I have made some very cheesy comments over the past 30-something years. So while I appreciate what you're saying, Hilla, I have to, you use cheese making and bardic as your examples. You might have wanted to use different ones, because that's right in my wheelhouse. That being said, Sir Bartholomew, one of the things that I wanted, that was brought to my attention, was that is that as we are a living organization, we continue to thrive and grow and change. And I think a lot of ways we're changing for the better, both in how we interact with each other and the aspects of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance that we want to recreate. And you had said earlier when talking with Laertes that things may change in the future. And my question to you, just speaking as yourself, not as the chairman, is how much do you think the status quo, those of us with peerages, fear change? in your opinion?
How much do we fear change? Well, I don't think that's the right question. I think that the old guard, if you want to call them that, have a lot of emotional investment, a lot of time and feeling and was maybe self-worth that's involved in the way things are. It's an important and a valuable thing for them. We've created this wonderful, complicated, fascinating game called the Society for Creative Anachronisms. And we built up these traditions over decades. And people put a lot of value into those. So, but on the other hand, we have a younger generation that is coming along, and a lot of their thoughts and feelings and the way that they operate it may be somewhat different than those of us that have come up in over many many years. So yeah, I think there's some trepidation out there about change. People like the way it is, and they sort of feel comfortable with it. And we feel comfortable with it with the board too. But we also want to take a look at how we might make the game better. How we might come up with ideas that are going to be exciting and interesting, that are going to appeal to have a broader appeal among the people, and while at the same time respecting the accomplishments and the incredible contributions that people that have been in the SA for a long time feel. So trying to balance those two is really difficult. We think about it all the time. I think that one thing that again, me talking, not the board. I can only speak for 1/7 of the board. That's me. But if change happens, it has to happen at a rate that's very slow, and one that allows time for people to get comfortable with it, and for people to be comfortable with it. You can't, if we change all the rules all at once, then it's not the same game, right? If you add the designated hitter rule, how does that change our game? And I would have to say that my experience of watching the board and watching the officers is that they're very protective of the game the way it is, and look at change very carefully and very critically before they want to make a big one. And peerage is a huge change. We all understand that, and so we're being very careful about it. Just seeing where the participants feel, and like I said, some ideas are have been out there and growing. Other ideas, who knows what it's going to be eventually, but when we do decide on something, then we're going to have enough feedback from the participants to make us feel comfortable that what we're doing is the right thing for the future of the SCA. How's that for?
That is.
I know that's a lot of hand waving, but
no. Honestly, Bartholomew, that's a fantastic answer. One of the people that sent a comment to me in private messages on Facebook this week said that we are now in the 7th generation of the SCA, because it's 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, the aughts, the 2010s, and now here we are in 2021. Yeah. And even though this last year was definitely its own creature, they're not wrong. I myself am from the early part of the 80s, so I guess I'm a 3rd generation, which means that just there have been 4 additional generations after me that have seen things that have changed the way they interact with each other. I mean, when I first started, I believe the yearly membership was, I'm going to say $10 or $15. When I first started, there were phone trees. When I first started, being on court meant if you helped the crown as much as you could by making phone calls, and it ran their bill up, especially in bigger kingdoms where you were calling across time zones and the like. And obviously that is not even a thing anymore. And having to put an actual stamp on an award letter recommendation that would be sent in the snail mail is almost never done anymore. So just a few things that have changed the way the SCA interacts with each other. And when I started, there were 7 kingdoms, and now there are 20. So we just had a new principality made in my home kingdom that I started in Ananstiora. So it's just, I know, I'm excited. So with all of these changes, I think what you stated about how the current board and all the boards that I've known before, they want to make sure that they guard the game, that they safeguard the society, but they also do the things to implement positive change.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for what you are doing as the chairman. I'm really thankful for what the members of the board of directors are doing. I can see we've got the president watching, Bear Killer's watching right now. So anything bad I say, I'll hear about it later.
Well, I'm sure I will hear about it later.
But the final thing that I have for you is that, so when you train your successor, the next chairperson of the board, depending upon how the commentary goes with this omnibus or whatever we're going to do, how do you think you can best prepare them for success going forward? Not just about the period, but also about coming out of a pandemic and into reacclimating ourselves to be in the real physical space. Are there things that you think you're going to be able to do to help them be successful?
Gosh, that's a really fascinating question, Bjorn. I just stepped into this, and so I'm still receiving, some commentary from my predecessor to say, hey, you're doing this right, or this is something that I had to deal with a lot. So I don't quite know yet know what I'm gonna tell my successor, other than, the people that are here, that are on the board with me already to a person, love this game, with a depth that is just exciting to watch and be a part of. And so, a lot of the things that all of us hold important, those are already there. And so, hopefully, I can set an example that says, there are ideas out there. Some of them might have merit. Some of them may not be good ideas. We just need to tread carefully as we move forward and think about how it could improve the game, and think about how it can preserve the things that we all love about the SCA. I think that's probably the best that anyone can do.
Well, I want to thank you so very much, because that was a difficult question, since you literally just assumed the mantle. But for those folks that, when we talked about things before about putting in recommendations for themselves or for others to join the board, hearing the things that you have to think about on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a daily basis, just to let them know just how challenging this is, especially since this is probably one of the most challenging times that the SCA has seen thus far. I just wanted to thank you so very much for all of the hard work and dedication you've put towards our game, and all the folks that are listening now that may want to put in their name. I'm telling you now, folks, this gentleman is a big shoes to fill. But I wanted to thank you, sir, for answering the question. Well,
thank you very much. I just a couple of things to finish up also. I'm not the board. We have 7 dedicated individuals that are all working like crazy on this, and it's an honor to work with them every day. And I also encourage anyone that wants a quintessential experience of what it is to be in the SCA, to put in a recommendation, or put in an application for the board. We are constantly looking for people to come and join us, and we are dedicated and committed people. And if you are dedicated and committed and like doing the kind of things we do, then we would love to hear from you.
Thank you, sir.
I like you got me back. So how are you?
I'm pretty good. I fastened my seatbelt early on, and it's been a wild ride.
Before we get into the fun part of the evening, I just want to thank you for your indulging me. I definitely didn't want to put you in a spot. I know you were speaking only for yourself, but I do appreciate at least you let me to ramble a bit. And
Yeah.
the fact that it does show that the board does want to hear opinions, suggestions, feedback on this, because the mind is not made up. You're looking for input. This is something that the populace will drive, because if it doesn't have that grassroots support, it's not going to survive. So
Absolutely. SCA-comments at list.sca.org. There you go. Boom. Thank you. We read every letter that comes in on that.
I know y'all do. And I think your first piece of advice for your successor is don't come on this show. Okay, so Bjorn, what game are we going to play this evening?
This evening's game is to Bart or not to Bart.
That's right. So you may be fascinated to know there are some famous Barts throughout history, not just you. I mean, you're like number one, but there's other famous Barts. So I'm gonna describe someone, both fictional and real.
Okay. No.
It's called Bart, and you need to give me what it is. Okay, so we'll start easy. Okay, so this character's middle name is Jojo, and it's the oldest child of the family. Which Bart is that? I give you half the name.
I have no idea.
Oh, see, that'd be Bart Simpson.
Simpson.
See?
I did. Thank you, Kai. Bart Simpson, very good. Yeah.
Okay, so here's another one.
Yeah.
This is a
Give me a harder one.
Okay, here's a harder one. This is a public transportation system in San Francisco.
I know that, the Bay Area Rapid Transit.
That's right, Bart. See?
I was really surprised one time someone put on SCA channel, hey, we're going to ride Bart to fighter practice. And I go, what the?
I guess you need a drink first. Okay. This is the alter ego for a DC superhero named Flash, Kid Flash, and Impulse, because I guess he couldn't make up his name.
I don't know.
That's Bart Allen. So
I don't.
Bart.
That's good.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, here's another one. This is a French-speaking Caribbean island that's popular among the rich and famous.
St. Bart's.
See?
Okay, that was easy.
That was good. Okay, here's another one. This star appeared in many Hollywood films, including White Fang, Windwalker, Legends of the Fall, and The Edge. But unfortunately, he died when he was 23. Do you know who this star is?
It must be a dog. Is it a dog? No. I couldn't. I don't know.
And close. It's Bart the Bear. So
Bart the Bear. Oh, I know.
Bear.
I know Bart. I was.
You were so close. You were in the animal kingdom. So, and then the last. Okay, so there are actually three people that went by this name. There was a Welsh pirate from the 1680s to the 1700s. There was an Western outlaw, and it's also the stage name of professional wrestler Rick Harris.
Gotta be Black Bart.
Black Bart. Look at that.
There you go.
You got more than half.
That was total guess. I thought I might get like Saint Bartholomew, who was flayed alive. That's how he was martyred. Who's now the patron saint of leatherworking.
It kind of goes hand in hand, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm sure he had a nice tan. Anyway.
Oh, not bad.
Thank you for taking time out of the travel to talk about this. I saw a lot of chatter come up on both guidances that the board put out, and I know that you're in the middle of traveling. I mean, look at you. You're calling from a hotel room. So I know it's not an easy job. I know you have to listen to yahoos like me all the time. But I appreciate you coming in and talking to the people, reinforcing that the board doesn't drive it. The board tries to listen to what the people want. And the fact that this is out there with no name, no insignia, is like, look how early in the process that we're looking for feedback from the populace for. So I just want to thank you for coming in, dealing with us, and just being available. I do appreciate it. So.
My pleasure. It's always so fun to be on your show. I feel like I'm an experienced hand at this now. So
That's true. I've got to look at your score from last time to see if you bettered it or not. But again, thank you so much for coming on. Best of luck. Look for my my novella coming soon. And have a great evening. Safe travels. And we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you for all your service. I do appreciate it.
my pleasure. Thank you. And thanks to Bjorn also.
Yeah, him too. Thank you. Bye. Oh, well, let's bring Bjorn back on. Hello. I meant to tell you, your hair looks fabulous this evening.
Thank you. It's starting to get to the point where it's sort of little bit warmer, but it's not quite that warm, so I don't need to wear hats anymore. And after finally getting my second dose of the vaccine and being able to shear some of the foliage off, and then I put more foliage on. So there we are.
It leaves you looking great.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, Honor's been very patient. We should probably get her. I found out her dog is upset because she's keeping him up late. So we probably should.
Oh no. Well, then we must by all means invite into the belly of the beast, as it were, none other than the Dragon Bard of the Midrealm, Dame Honor von Atzinger.
All right. I'm just going to say it's like the coolest title ever. So she's going to be here just in a moment. She's going to be here right about now. Hello.
It is the coolest title.
Isn't that an awesome
It's amazing. Yeah. Dragon Bard. What's not to love?
Dragon Bard. It sounds like a campaign you would run in D&D, right?
Oh, well, I mean, I am in a campaign, D&D. We've been playing virtually, of course, because 2020. But yeah. Doesn't D&D and SCA go hand in hand as well?
I think they all roll together. Anyway, so Dragon Bard of the Midrealm is what does that title actually convey?
What that means is that I am the bardic champion for their majesties of the Midrealm. So in this case, King Felix and Queen Madalena were kind enough to extend an invitation to me to be their champion. So I just happen to be called the Dragon Bard because, of course, the Midrealm is the Dragon Kingdom, Draco Invictus. And so it's been pretty exciting. It's been a year because no events. So it's been very interesting being a champion during no SCA.
Yeah, it's a challenge. So, and also you're involved in the Bardic War, is that correct?
I am, yes. I was kind of voluntold into it, but it's really great. It's super exciting. The Bardic War, it was started funnily enough, people have kind of made fun of me for this. It was started in a concert that I wasn't privy to because laurels weren't allowed. So I kind of feel like, the kids were picking at each other, and all of a sudden now we have a war on our hands. But it's going to be a blast. I'm super excited about it.
So let's see, the war runs May 15th through the 23rd. Correct. And it's a series of competitions and performances and such. Is that
correct? Oh, yes. I mean, just about. If you like to do stuff in the SCA, there's something for you. It's not just music. It's not just storytelling. It's not just Bardic in general. We're including people from the martial aspects of the SCA as well. There's different arts and science projects that are coming out. There's youth engagement. So really check out the webpage, First Bardic War. You can just Google it and it'll pop right up. There's something for everyone. It's really an opportunity for us who have missed the SCA for over a year to be able to engage with each other. And because it's across 20 kingdoms, it's across all of the kingdoms, it's really a fantastic opportunity to get to know people from other kingdoms.
And speaking of other kingdoms, a couple of weeks ago we had the Trimaris General on on the show. Wonderful performance. But she kind of was talking about how the fact that Eastern Alliance was basically going to dominate the Bardic Choir. I wonder if you had any comments towards that.
Oh, I'm not so sure about that. The Eastern Alliance, they've got some good people on their team. I'm not going to lie, but the Midrealm Alliance is going to rock it out. We have some amazing performers lined up. I'm super excited to see all of their amazing performances. The Midrealm Alliance consists of the kingdoms of Ansteora, Callantir, Glen Aubin, Meridies, Midrealm, and Northshield. And all of the generals that I've been working with, I happen to be the Midrealm general as well. All of the generals I've been working with have been just fantastic people, wonderful to work with. And I can't wait. Bring it, East Kingdom and Western Alliance, because they're their own alliance as well.
Yeah, well, Western Alliance. I know those folks.
Yeah.
So just quickly, I know it's late. Just a couple of quick things. So how long have you been in the SCA?
I've been in the SCA for 11 years. I joined in 2010.
And was Bardic what drew you in, or what?
No, not at all. I started the SCA with my two best friends, and we got involved because fighting is fun. So I actually started as a heavy fighter, and I still do fight heavy. I love melees in particular. It took me a good 4 or 5 years to get involved in Bardic.
That's awesome. And just kind of dual tracked it since then. Continue fighting and
absolutely.
expanding your Bardic.
I just love to do all the things. So, I'm even a rapier. Well, technically a rapier fighter. I'm authorized in rapier, and I love to run events as well. So, it's just, I love the SCA. I love every aspect of it.
That's awesome. So now, when you perform, are you normally singing or playing instruments, or what do you normally
I will be singing a song. Yes, I'm a singer. I prefer to sing a cappella. So yeah, you're going to get a song from me tonight.
So you want to tell us about the song you're performing this evening?
Absolutely. It is a 12th century hymn written by the famous composer Hildegard von Bingen. She's a German composer. She's amazing. I've made her life the primary aspect of my research. And the specific song, it's a hymn titled O Ignis Spiritus Paracliti. It's just beautiful. And the words really struck a chord with me. And I love it. It's an oldie but a goodie for me. It's one of my favorite songs to perform.
Well, on that note, the floor is yours.
Thank you. O ignis spiritus paracliti vitae omnis creaturae sanctus es vivificando formas sanctus es ungendo periculo se fractos sanctus est ergendo fetida vulnera o spiraculum sanctitatis o ignis caritatis utus is gustus in pectoribus Eligit et perdit vos, requirit. O lorica fide, et spes compassionis, membrorum omnium.
Wow, that was gorgeous, man.
Thank you.
The Eastern Alliance should be quaking, is what I'm saying. Let's bring Bjorn in.
Hildegard is one of my absolute favorites. I studied her a lot as well from when I was in undergrad and grad school, and the very, as canonizations go, or equivalent canonizations go, her very recent receipt of the Doctor of the Church, she's one of only 4 women to get that role in all of the Roman Church, and
It's
I mean,
amazing.
she truly is amazing. And also, let's be honest, when she lived in the 11th, 12th century, if she actually did live to the age of 81, then she was like at the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of longevity in that time. So
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
just
she studied medicine. You know, she studied everything.
she's truly just fantastic. And we were all expecting just her to remain beatified for forever. And then with the most recent movement for her doctorate of the church, she's one of the people that I think so many people in the SCA that they get into early music, it's because of Hildegard. So
her music is beautiful.
absolutely.
It's absolutely gorgeous. And it's
you
actually
sung it
not like
beautifully.
other 12th century music.
It was a truly amazing rendition, and I wanted to thank you so much. Your voice is majestic. It was beautiful.
Thank you. That's very kind. Thank you.
Amazing performance. Thank you for coming on this evening and staying up late with us. Apologize to your dog for me.
I will. Thank you both.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Good night. Wow. That was amazing.
Yeah, the Middle Alliance is going to be something else, I have to say. But then again, I mean, it's our folks are part of that one. So that's, Glenavon, Meridies, and Callantyre, and Stiora. It's shaping up pretty, give me some pretty hefty hitters coming out.
Right. Well, I think that wraps up our show this evening. Went a little long tonight. A little talky for a change. So who do we have coming on next week?
Well, we are very fortunate in that we have one of the generals coming on for the Western Alliance, and in particular, the general from the Kingdom of Avicall. She is the first, so she's the premier Kingdom Bard of Avicall. She won the first competition, and so Lady Maeve will be joining us next week, and showing support and display for the group that Caid is a part of, the Western Alliance. So that's who'll be with us next week.
Oh, you mean the winning alliance? Western Alliance. Western Alliance, yes. And we're going to be speaking with a gentleman that kind of spearheaded the effort, putting together the documentation, working with committees and such for the Principality of Lindheim. So we're going to find out the process of how they got everything together, made the proposal, and what lies ahead, since they are now an incipient principality until they have people sitting on the throne. So I've never been in a kingdom where we've gone through the process, so I thought we'd get them on and find out how it happens.
I'm very excited. That's home. I mean, that's the part of Anstiora that I'm from. So I'm so excited for them. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
That always has a special place in my heart too. So, all right. Well, Bjorn, it's good to see you, my friend. We'll see you next week.
Always good to see you. And thank you so very much, Laertes, for putting this together.
All righty. And everyone out there, thanks for joining us this week. Be sure to come back next week. Be sure to come back next week when once again we will be live from Caid. We'll see you then.
Bye, everybody.